on.
Sonia, you've been working really closely with some of our pilot program teams, and in some ways you've had your own lived experience in kind of being embedded, just like a war photographer really, into program teams who are engaged in this new process. And I know that because it's a new process, there have been some challenges in relation to that. We've conflated those challenges, and that people are already doing the challenging work of designing new courses, but they're doing it in new ways with new expectations on a new system. And of course there's likely to be some pain in relation to that. I'm hoping there's also some gain to be reported. Given that you were embedded and you've seen a lot of that process through, what could you tell us about your experiences and your perceptions of what the cycle that program teams have gone through in terms of pain and gain?
Well, and I think the key thing is most people, if they're presented with something completely new, will have an element of fear. And I think a new approach to curriculum design hits more buttons than most in this environment. And not necessarily always understanding the why the action and the activities are being asked of course teams seem to unnerve them more than the actual process. Right. So not understanding their own motivations for doing something, or what the projected outcome of that might be, and how that fits into the broader picture, I think unnerve them more so than anything else. I mean, everybody learning a new system, the first time we ever used a Windows or an Apple operating system, you don't necessarily know all the right answers straight away, and it becomes second nature. Driving a car is another good example. So the system aspect of it, I think, was always going to be that learning process and that sort of steep learning curve. But the actual design process in and of itself, that can create a sort of an environment of uncertainty as to why they're doing it and when they're doing it and what effect.
And just to add in a bit of context to the purpose of this video, with our new design structures, where people used to be able to design away almost in a silo and keep things quite close, the whole rationale that underpins our design process is transparency. So people no longer had the luxury of being able to kind of do stuff until they feel comfortable in getting out there. From the point at which they're designing, it's very transparent to their colleagues where they are. The wording of their learning outcomes is up there for all to see, without necessarily having the time and space to do something, bounce it off a few of your friends, and then share it at a much later point. Did you pick up on some of that?
I think the main thing about the transparency is nobody wanted to feel as if they were doing something wrong, or that their contribution wasn't what was expected of them. So there was a lot around expectation management, and I think that comes down to the fact that the environment in which you create for the course teams to develop the curricula needs to be that you won't necessarily have all the answers, and you need to allow them the space and give them the expectation that the answers they come up with today might not necessarily be the right answers for tomorrow, because you're not asking the right questions.
And you're right that there is a real tension in our process there, that traditionally in the curriculum design approval process, the point at which people share is that they're sharing largely finished articles for critique. But in our process, they're always sharing drafts, and people really aren't used to sharing drafts formally. They share drafts informally for feedback with those circle of people who they control, but it's a rare thing that we actually share our earliest thinking, inviting critique, criticism, and please tell me what I've got wrong here. That's a different thing to be doing, isn't it?
I think it's interesting, absolutely that, because the confirmation approach to curriculum design, which is we've got it almost right, we think it's about ready for somebody outside or somebody within the course team or somebody higher up in the organisation to look at this and see whether or not it's okay. And I think that's one of the key things that is the difference here, that we're not asking for this is confirmation, can you tell me if this looks about right? It's these are my thoughts, what do you think? And actually getting course teams comfortable with each other and getting them to be confident in that first draft situation is a challenge in and of itself. The feedback and the the information I've had from the course teams that have gone through the process, that I've remained close with and who are now post-pilot, is that whilst they were in it, they said they couldn't see the wood for the trees, and facilitating some of their design meetings and helping gave them the confidence to be able to do what they were doing, but they still didn't feel that they quite understood how everything knitted together. And it's now post-pilot, when the course has been designed and then they've had time to reflect on it, that they are incredibly positive about the course that they produce, because they now understand how everything fitted together. And I think that is the biggest gain, that hopefully in tow with the rough guide for the teams using this process going forward, they'll have that confidence at the very beginning, and they'll understand how things fit into the broader dynamic, so that they understand at each stage and feel confident at each stage that they're doing the right thing. But for the teams that went through the pilot, they definitely now feel that they had achieved more by going through the process than they would have had they gone through a traditional validation. So I think from that point of view, that's the best game we could have managed in any circumstance.
Thank you very much.